Hey guys, my name is Caitlin and welcome back to my channel. That felt so strange, but at the same time, so normal. If you're new here, welcome. I haven't filmed a YouTube video in about 2.5 years, so this is kind of like the revival of this channel. Little bit of backstory, I'm 25, I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I read a lot of romance, some YA and MF thrown in there, but is really where my heart lies in terms of reading. I've also fallen into the trap of loving running over the past year or so, so there will be a little bit of running content making its way onto my channel, but this is still going to stay a dominantly book channel. Dominantly? I don't think that's what I meant to say, but we're gonna go with it. In my last reading vlog, I mentioned that I would love to film a video talking about all of my favorite reads over the past 2 years that I haven't really been filming, so that is what we're going to be going through today. I think all up, there are 26 books that I'm going to be talking through today, and only one of them is YA. Every other book is an romance, and I'm so excited to be talking about them with you. I forgot how much joy filming YouTube videos brings me, because I feel like I get to talk to you guys directly about how good these books are, what our thoughts on them are. Like, no one else in my day-to-day life reads romance, so being able to film these videos and actually talk about them, I love it. I love it. I've missed it. Why haven't I been doing this for 2 years? But anyway, I have my trusty laptop back with me today. She's still going. She's a little bit slower than she was 2 years ago, but that is totally fine. And I put together an honest to God spreadsheet with my favorite books over the past few years. I did have to go through my Goodreads for this, and let me tell ya, I have reread almost every book on this list more than once since I added it to my favorites list. There are a couple on there that I haven't touched, so that's going to be interesting. But let's get started, shall we? A little bit of a disclaimer before we get started. All of these books are HEA. I am not about that happy for now business. Like, give me an happily ever after or I don't want it. I also can't remember which books I had and hadn't spoken about before I stopped filming. So we're just going to start with all of my favorite books from 2023, then go on to 2024 and 2025 so far. Starting with 2023, there are 11 books on this list. Who is she? She had a good reading year in 2023, apparently. And what makes me so excited is normally when I talk about romance and I was still building my collection, I didn't have any physical copies to hold up and actually like gesture with while I talk, which was one of my favorite parts of filming book reviews and hauls and whatever, is being able to hold the book while I tell you about it. And normally I would stand over here and I'd like put up a photo, but I own most of these now and I'm so excited about it. Also, I feel like I should address the filming situation. It is very, very different to what it used to look like. Honestly, do I kind of prefer my old filming setup? Absolutely I do. I had my 2 bookshelves pushed together. You could see most of my collection at once, and now we just have this. And I feel like I need to reorganize my bookshelves because you can't even see my romance really. Like, you see my YA, and that's not what this channel is about anymore. Honestly, if you guys want to see a bookshelf tour, let me know. I would love to film one. It'll be a pain in the ass to edit, but filming it will be so much fun. I'm so excited to get started. So the first book on my favorites list from 2023 is Prince and Assassin by Tavia Lark. This is the first book in the Perilous Court series, and it is a 6-book series. I would recommend reading this series in order because the characters and the timeline are all intertwined, but each book in the series does follow a different couple and a different character, so very, very interesting to read. The premise of this book hooked me. I think it was my first 5-star read in a long time actually, and we are following Whisper, who is an assassin. He's part of this guild of assassins, elite assassins, mind you. Everyone has heard of their reputation, but they are controlled by blood magic, and they have to complete a certain amount of kills or assignments until they can finally earn their freedom. And Whisper's on his very last assignment, and this assignment is to kill Prince Julian, which should be easy enough because Julian is always portrayed as like this playboy. There are 3 princes. Julian is portrayed as the one with the least amount of magic. Should be a piece of cake, right? Of course, Whisper's plans end up falling apart when he realizes that someone else is actually trying to harm Julian, so he has to save Julian's life, and then Julian ends up saving him in return, and then it becomes this whole internal battle of can he actually kill the guy that he might be starting to have feelings for. Stop it. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I love my tags and my shelves on Goodreads. Almost every single time I finish a book, I will go through and mark like every trope that occurs, every scene that occurs, so that when I'm making these videos, I find it so much easier to go back and find recommendations. Have I been sticking to that for like the past year or so? No, I haven't. So I've really done myself dirty there. But the other tags I've associated with this book, obviously it is a forbidden romance. You have an assassin and his target, essentially. I also marked that this book gave me very high expectations because I just loved these characters so much. And also we do have a scene where one of our main characters gets injured and has to be rescued. And I'm all for it. We actually have a couple of those scenes in this book. Fucking fabulous. I just realized that I can actually hold like a book stack at the end of this video and be like, thumbnail, here are my favorites. Oh, heck yeah, that's gonna be so much fun. I don't know if this is cheating or not, but the second book on this list is Prince in Disguise by Tavia Lark. What a surprise. This is the second book in the Perilous Court series, and we follow Prince Julian's brother, Bellamy, but when he gets captured in enemy territory, he does pretend that he is a wandering minstrel, even though he can't hold a tune to save himself. He pretends to be a minstrel because there's another prisoner that he's been trapped with, and in order to work together and escape, he pretends to be someone that he's not. But little does he know that the other prisoner that he's trapped with is none other than Rhaegos Tem, the infamous dragon rider, and apparently a bit of a traitor to his country at the moment, but it's a long story. They have to spend a lot of time together in very close proximity to try to get away from their captors, to get Bellamy across the border back into his homeland. And of course, the more time that they spend with each other, the more that their connection develops into something a little bit more than just a partnership, especially because Rhaegos sees Bellamy and treats Bellamy as someone other than just this weak, sickly prince, which is how he's often treated back home. The other tags I had listed for this book, it does contain a first time scene. It is a forbidden relationships, forced proximity, very, very solid hurt comfort, which I love. My third favorite for 2023 was Can't Say Goodbye by Finley. I feel like this is not a surprise. I adored this book. This book is a standalone, but we do meet one of our characters, Brady, in Finley's other works. You don't have to have read that to delve into this one. It makes perfect sense without it, but if you do want the whole picture, you just want to make your way through the whole world, I would recommend checking out the Franklin Yu series before delving into this one. The book starts with Brady going to a bar with the intention of hooking up, and he ends up going home with two Navy SEALs. Despite their relationship, their connection being a bit different from the get-go, Brady gives him his number, but he doesn't think he's going to hear from them again, especially because Kit and Prescott seem to kind of have their own tension, weird vibe going on between them. Lo and behold, seeing as it's a romance, they do keep in contact. They start seeing each other as much as possible between the guy's deployment and Brady graduating from college and then starting a full-time job. They don't know when they're going to be able to see each other next, and so this book does take place over a couple of years of them trying to figure out how to make this work, if they can balance their careers and their deployment. It is a whirlwind and it is so much fun, especially if you have read Finley's Fake Boyfriend series. They all make an appearance in this book. This book does feature an age gap. I forget exactly how big it is. It is a failed casual relationship, obviously started as a hookup, ended as a relationship. It's a military romance, it's a poly romance, and it also features a scene where one of the protagonists gets injured and the other two kind of go ballistic trying to figure out if he's okay. Next, we have Nicked Nordin by Nora Phoenix. This is the fourth and the final book in the Foster Brothers series. Now, to be honest, I was rereading all of the Goodreads blurbs for these books before I was planning this video just to make sure that I didn't miss anything when giving a synopsis, and I feel like the Goodreads blurb for this book is so inaccurate, it actually confused me. So if you're gonna take anything away from this video, please listen to my blurb, not the Goodreads blurb, because I don't know about you guys, if anyone's read this book and like goes back and reads that blurb, let me know if you think that is also inaccurate. Essentially, we are following Nordin and Taven. They both met when they were 18 and aged out of the foster system. They did hook up, but then went their separate ways to move on with their lives. Taven ended up moving states, whereas Nordin stayed where they were because he had his three other foster brothers who also have their own books in this series. Now, the dilemma is that Taven has always known that Nordin is a con artist, and that's something that he was always willing to overlook until he decides that he wants to get a career in law enforcement, first as a police officer and then moving on to the FBI. And you know, Nordin respects that. He stays out of his way, keeps tabs on him from a distance until he ends up getting stabbed during a job and has no idea who else he can go to because no one else knows the truth about what he does except for Taven, and he shows up bleeding out in his driveway and passes out in Taven's arms. Are you kidding? This book really just goes to show that they can't stay away from each other, so the end question is, what will win out? in the end, their love or their careers. All the tags for this book are pretty self-explanatory. It is a forbidden relationship, there's a law enforcement aspect, and also with one of our protagonists getting injured. One of my favorite scenes in the whole book. The next book on this list, bit of a thick one, this is For the Fans by Nyla K, a book that I did not expect to love as much as I did. This book is also a standalone, so nothing follows this chunky ass thing. Kyron and Avi do not get along in the slightest, but they're forced to when their parents end up getting together and getting married, so they're stepbrothers. I feel like I sounded way too excited by that, but let's move on. One weekend when they're on a trip home from college, their parents admit that they're actually bankrupt and they can't afford to pay their college tuition anymore. Now, one of Avi's friends has an OnlyFans account, and she comes to Avi and she's like, hey, this is a good way to make easy money. You can make it anonymous. Why don't you give it a go? So Avi creates an account, he starts making some videos, and then that same friend comes to him with a proposition that her fans are begging for a threesome video. Her and 2 other guys. And who else is she considering but Avi and Kyron, of all people. Kyron is very resistant at first until he finds out just how much money they can actually make from this, and he's like, fine, I'll do it, but don't fucking touch me. They end up going through with the video and the fans love it. They want more, just, you know, minus the girl. Just keep Kyron and Avi, thanks. After a little bit of back and forth, Kyron and Avi decide to keep making videos just for the money, just for the fans, and they go a little bit further each time. But how many times can they tell themselves it's just for the fans if they have to keep reminding themselves to turn on the camera? There are quite a few tags that I had associated with this book. It is an awakened sexuality romance, it is a college romance, enemies to lovers, it does feature a first time scene, also a forbidden relationships because they are stepbrothers, and it's a sports romance because Kyron is an athlete. I do have to mention though, there are a few triggers in this book. I think they are all listed on Nyla K's website, but if you are intrigued and just want to know what they are before you delve into it, there is an SA trigger in this book. It does delve into not the nitty-gritty, you don't see all the details. If you did, I do not think it would be a favorite of mine. That I don't want to read about that, but it is mentioned. It is a big point in one of our characters' development, and so it does get touched on fairly heavily towards the end of the book. Just putting that out there so you are aware before delving into this. This next one holds such a special place in my heart. I love it so much. It is Until I Saw You by Dianna Roman. This is book 1 in a series, but book 2 follows a different character. Harper has no money and is currently sleeping on his best friend's couch while he recovers from an attack from his ex-boyfriend. So when the opportunity comes up to act as a live-in caregiver for someone who's recently lost their sight, Harper jumps on the opportunity. Riley is someone who was always really adventurous but has now had to learn how to live his life again with no sight, and after being treated like a helpless houseplant by his now ex-girlfriend, his family, and all the previous caregivers as well, he's just about ready to fire anyone who walks through his door. But when Riley realizes that Harper actually has experience with people with reduced sight and that he can actually teach him different ways of like how to live his life and how to go through life with reduced vision, he's like, okay, I guess I'll give him a chance. And then the more time that they spend together, the more time that he realizes that there's something different about Harper, and maybe that he needs Harper in his life, not as a caregiver, but as something a little bit more. This book is just so damn sweet. It gets me every single time. I could not tell you how many times I have reread this book over and over again. This is another one that I had a lot of tags listed and also a couple of triggers, so do beware of that. This is another awakened sexuality romance. It features a first time scene. It's a forbidden relationship because, I mean, Harper is technically his employee. It's also got the forced proximity trope since they're living together. It does feature a scene where our protagonist gets injured. As for the triggers, we do touch on mental abuse. Physical abuse plays a big part in this, and it does allude to sexual abuse. There's only 1 or 2 lines that really reference to it, but it is still in the book. Next up, we have Rookie Mistake by Anna Zabo and L.A. Witt. This is the first book in the On the Board series, and not gonna lie, this is one of the ones that I have not reread since I added it to my favorites shelf. I think this is one of those books that, like, I loved it so much, but it hurt my heart while I was reading it, and I don't know if I want to put myself through that again, even for a reread and even for a favorite, if that makes sense. I am not gonna lie, I can't actually really remember what happened in this book, so I did have to go by the Goodreads blurb for this synopsis, so it is gonna be a bit bare bones. I apologize for that in advance. Essentially, we have Isaac, who is a rookie NHL player, still coming to terms with the fact that he's not actually the best player on the team anymore. He's trying to find his feet in the big leagues, and he's playing alongside people who were his idols growing up, as well as one player, Julian, who might be a little bit more than just an idol. Julian has been playing in the NHL for about 8 years now, and in his rookie year he had a very, very bad experience when it comes to romance, if you can even call it that. So since then he's really just been sticking to hookups, flings, anything that doesn't get his heart involved. But when he starts playing with Isaac and he starts becoming friends with him, there's something about Isaac that just makes him long for something more. Someone that he can share his life with, his heart with. But the truth about the past doesn't always stay buried. When that truth comes out, can Isaac and Julian really brave that storm together? I know that was shocking. It was incredibly vague. I'm sorry, I have nothing else to offer. I did write in my review for this book though that the writing is very reminiscent of Tal Bauer, how every single thing gets addressed, but it's not slow. The pace is fantastic. I loved it. Like I said, it made my heart hurt. So if you're looking for a hockey romance that is probably gonna leave you like in a book mourning period, I'd do it. There are 2 books in this series. The second one is Scoreless Game. This one broke me even more than the first one, I will say. I feel like I'm not convincing anyone to read this, but like, you know, give it a crack, why not? I was really just about to say this next one's a favorite of mine, but like that is the whole point of this video. But it is one that I think I've actually reread the most on this list, and that is Iced Out by C.E. Ricci. It is the first book in her Leighton U series. I think there are going to be 5 books in this series. There are 3 out at the moment. Would recommend all of them. Quentin and Oakley never got along. They played hockey for rival high schools, but when they get to the same college and they're playing on the same team, and Quentin ends up getting the captaincy position over Oakley, that's just the icing on the cake. But we all know that the line between love and hate is paper thin. So when they're both at a party and some taunting turns into a dare, and that dare turns into a blowjob at a party, and then that blowjob ends up cancelling their losing streak and they win their next game. I mean, we all know how deep superstitions run when it comes to athletes, right? Quin and Oak come up with this asinine plan that if they keep hooking up, then the team is going to keep winning. But how many times can you tell yourself that you're only hooking up with your enemy for the sake of your team? And what are you going to do if the team doesn't win after you've hooked up? I don't know, man. I don't know. The tags in this one are pretty self-explanatory. It's an awakened sexuality romance, a college romance, enemies to lovers for sure, and a sports romance. I freaking love that book. I really do. Next up, we have The Quarterback by Tal Bauer. This is book 2 in Here's the Team series. I have reread this one so many more times than book 1. Don't get me wrong, book 1, fabulous. It is on my favorites list, I think, for maybe 2022. Book 1 is one of those books that really hurts my heart, and so I can't bring myself to reread it very often, but this one hurts slightly less. Colton is the quarterback for their college football team, and when he gets injured during practice, and I'm talking like could be a career-ending injury if he doesn't rehab it properly, it's not his best friend who steps up, but his friend's straight dad. Neither man has ever looked at another guy before in a romantic way, but while Nick is helping Colton rehab his shoulder, Colton ends up moving in with Nick. They're pretty much acting like a married couple, just without any of like the sexual benefits. The more time that they spend together, the more Colton is falling deeper and deeper in love with Nick, but unfortunately Nick is just completely oblivious to Colton's developing feelings for him. And there is no really good way to tell your best friend's straight dad that you're living with, hey, like, I know you've never looked at another guy before, and also there's a bit of an age gap between us, but I'm kind of into you. Like, do you want to give it a shot? I mean, you can do that if you've had some liquid courage though, right? I love this book so much. This book is an age gap romance. It is also an awakened sexuality romance. It features both the best friends dad trope and the friends to lovers trope. It's also a bit of a slow burn, and I may have bawled my eyes out during this book just because like the climax scene, the makeup scene, it's just so good. Like, it hurts, but it's so good. Moving on to arguably one of the prettiest books on my shelf, we have Possess Me, I Want You To by Faye Quin. This is book 2 in her Spooky Boys series. When I say pretty, let's just have a look at how gorgeous this cover is, for one. And then you open it up and there is artwork. Look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. At a bar one night, Luca, the pink-haired dude, ends up trading his last painting for a lucky necklace, but what no one tells him is that this lucky necklace comes with a ghost attached to it who is Prudence. And Prudence wants to die. Again. I mean, technically he's already dead because he is a ghost, but he's still hanging around. He doesn't want to be hanging around. He wants to like die for good. So he wants Luca to help him with that, and he doesn't really care what happens to Luca along the way. Luca and Prudence make a deal that Luca will help Prudence die for good if Prudence helps Luca with his own problems. But you know, that's before they have like, I don't even know if you could call it ghost sex. And then Luca sees Prudence for the first time and realizes how drop dead gorgeous he is. Pun very much intended. And like so many romances, the more time that they spend in each other's company, the more their relationship turns from possessor and possessee to something a little bit more meaningful, and Prue realizes that maybe he doesn't want to cross over into the afterlife just yet after all. The tags for this book, it is a benefits to lovers, forced proximity, very much grumpy sunshine. I mean, hello, I feel like you can tell that just by looking at the cover. It's a paranormal romance, and Prue gives off very much like touch him and die vibes, and he may put it into action once in the book. The last book from my 2023 favorites list is one that I don't actually own yet. I don't know why I haven't bought it, but it is System Overload by Saxon James. It is the 5th book in her Divorced Men's Club, and dare I say it, I think it's actually like one of the only books in that series that I like. The other books just have a few tropes that I don't love, especially book 6. Oh, do not even get me started on book 6. I have an entire rant review on my Goodreads about how much I disliked book 6. Will has been in love with his best friend's dad, Keller, honestly for years. When his best friend Molly decides he's got to move across the country, that leaves Will stranded without a place to live. And Molly has this brilliant idea that his best friend and his dad can live together while Will finds another place to live. And Will doesn't know if he loves that idea or actually hates it. Their situation is a little bit of a mess because Will and Keller actually end up hooking up one night, but then they agree that it's never going to happen again. But Keller wants someone to settle down with, to live the rest of his life with, while Will is sleeping in his house, cooking him dinner every night, and is literally in love with him. He knows that he's probably going to get hurt, but at the same time, he does not want to walk away from Keller, and so it comes a time where he might just have to tell Keller how he feels, and that as long as he's living in this house, maybe Keller needs to realize that what he's looking for is actually right in front of him. The tags associated with this book, it's an age gap, best friend's dad romance. It's very much a feel-good romance. It's got the forced proximity trope, the friends to lovers trope, and also their roommates. So this stack is my 2023 favorites minus System Overload that I don't have. Moving on to 2024 favorites, this list is much shorter. There are only 6 books. Let's delve in, shall we? I feel like this is an interesting one to start with, but we have Follow the River by C.E. Ricci. This is the first book in a duet. It's gonna break you. I'm just gonna say that. I'm probably not gonna convince anyone to read this book with this review. This will leave you broken, but you're gonna love it and you're not gonna be able to put it down. If you wanna read it, do it at your own risk. This is another one that I haven't actually reread since I first added it to my favorites list, so I don't actually remember much of what happens in the book. We are following River and Rain, who are enemies. They do not get along. I'm pretty sure they're both on a football team at their college. In the end, I'm pretty sure it's their coach who's like, yeah, no, I've had enough of this. You two need to sort your shit out. And he drops them off at a cabin and just leaves them there. And is like, I'll come back in a certain amount of time and I want you to have sorted your shit out by the time I get here to pick you back up. Thus commences a bit of a toxic relationship, I guess you could say, between the two of them. That's kind of all I've got for you, to be honest. Being a duology, you know that the first book is gonna be they get together, something happens in the end, and then book 2 is where they find their way back to each other. This duo definitely does follow that same timeline, I guess you could call it, but it's gonna hurt. I have to say that it's gonna hurt. And I stayed away from this series for the longest time because I thought that it was a much darker romance than it actually was. I thought the triggers were gonna be way too much for me. As we've discussed, and as you can probably see by the other books in this list, I'm not a dark romance girly. I can't do it. But when I say that I was obsessed with this series, couldn't put it down to save myself. Did some of the triggers push my reading limits a little bit? I would say that they did. Even saying that, I wouldn't go back and unread this if I had the chance. So the tags associated with this book, it's a college romance, it's an enemies to lovers, and it's also a forced proximity romance. As for the triggers, there are mentions of both sexual abuse and drug abuse in this duo, so just be mindful of that heading into this. Moving on to something on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, we have Off Track by Leslie McAdam. This is the first book in the Fast Start trilogy, and all I have to say is that it's a gay F1 trilogy. Like, say less. Christian Rivera and Jasper Nord have spent years being very, very well-known rivals on the track and constantly battling it out for pole position. During a race, Christian forces Jasper off the track in a move that could or could not be considered appropriate. Jasper ends up going to his hotel room to sort this shit out. Probably gonna fight him, let's be honest. But what does Christian do to defuse the situation other than kiss his rival on the lips? Shut the fuck up. Now Jasper's out here questioning his sexuality and debating whether or not they can even pursue anything, because while Christian might be racing royalty, Jasper is literally Swedish royalty. Like, he is in line for the throne. While they might be okay with him racing cars for a living, they're probably not going to be okay with him openly dating a man. Despite that, when Christian ends up crashing his car during a race and is potentially injured, all bets are off. Jasper is running for his man. So again, all the tags in this one, pretty self-explanatory. We've covered them in the blurb. It's an enemies to lovers, opposites attract. Our protagonist does get injured. We love to see it, as long as they're okay. It's got royalty and it is a sports romance. Next up, we have On Guard by J.R. Gray and Andi Jaxon. I feel like when I tell you the blurb of this book, you're going to be like, what in the Wattpad is that? But I do kind of feel like that's why I love it so much. I read this book after a string of DNFs and like 1-2 star reads, so I loved this book. When Isaac starts at college, literally his first week, his parents decide to cut him off financially, and he is so close to his breaking point when he gets an offer from a gorgeous stranger to buy his virginity. And this is where the Wattpad part comes in. Isaac had never ever thought of going through with that, but he is desperate for the money, and he's like, you know what, he's gorgeous, he's rich, it's 24 hours, I'm never gonna see this guy again, right? Wrong. Oh, so wrong. The gorgeous rich guy turns out to be Oliver, who not only goes to the same college as Isaac, but is the captain of their fencing team and is wildly possessive of Isaac. What Oliver wants, Oliver gets, and Oliver wants Isaac, despite the fact that someone of his social status is expected to like marry an heiress. And Isaac knows that he's not gonna get to keep Oliver full time, but he can't help himself. He wants every moment with Oliver that he can get, even though he knows he's going to get his heart broken. As you could guess, this is a college romance. It features a first time scene, and it's also got a beautiful found family trope, which I really appreciated. Next up, we have Hateful Love by T. Ashleigh and Addison Beck. This is the first book in the King of Aces series, and I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this book on my favorites list while prepping for this video, I was like, oh my god, I loved this book, and then went to write the blurb, and I realized I can't tell you a single thing that happened in this book, which in a way is good, because I started going through my highlights for this book and I was like, damn, some of these lines sound so good, and now I'm actually really excited to go back and reread this. I'm pretty sure this is actually a high school romance, and we are following Silas, who is the resident bad boy, and then Blaine, who is the school's golden boy, who's nice to literally everyone but Silas. They don't get along. Their animosity bleeds over into literally every interaction, until one day when they hit breaking point, something in them snaps, and now they are each other's dirty little secret. So many things stand in the way of these two characters being with each other, but now that they've found each other, there's no way in hell that they're letting each other go. And that is kind of all I have to say about that. I didn't even add any tags to this book. This is the next one. We have Marrying Mr. Majestic by Lucy Lennox. This is the second book in the Billionaire Brotherhood series. My favorite out of the whole damn series. I have reread this book more times than I can count. Waylon and Silas find themselves in Vegas for somewhat similar reasons, but they end up leaving with way more in common than they started, that being a marriage certificate and a couple of matching wedding bands. It's It's an accidental Marion Vegas book. Do I have to say more? Silas's biggest secret in life is that he's actually a billionaire, and the only people who know this secret are his sister and the guys that he earned this fortune with. They are the only people in the world who know. So when he wakes up in Vegas, realizes that he got married without actually signing like a prenup or anything, he is on his way to small town Majestic, Wyoming to serve his husband some divorce papers. Unfortunately, Way has other ideas. He actually is the mayor of Majestic, Wyoming, and this small town is really counting on him for this big event that is coming up. So he needs to portray the picture perfect mayor, and when news of his marriage comes out, the last thing that he can be caught doing before this huge event is getting a divorce after the town just finds out that he's gotten married. Looks like City Boy Silas is hanging out in Majestic, Wyoming for a little bit longer than he originally thought, but with Way by his side, I don't think he's gonna be that mad about it. So tropes, this is an awakened sexuality, cowboy, failed casual relationship, fake relationship, feel-good romance, forced proximity. Our protagonist does get injured, which, you know, we love. Next up, this is actually the last book on my 2024 favorites list, and it is the only YA book on this list, and it is Yesterday's History by Kosoko Jaxon. Oh my lord, I ugly cried throughout this book because it was brilliant. When our main character Andre receives a liver transplant, the very last thing that he expects is to inherit the previous owner's time traveling capabilities. What? Before he knows it, he's actually transported back in time to 1969, where he meets this boy Michael, and then he's brought straight back to present time, where he finds out that the person that this liver came from comes from a family of time travelers, and this family is like, hey, we're gonna partner you up with our youngest son Blake, and he can teach you everything that you need to know about now having this time traveling gene. Andre now spends his time going back and forth between past and present, between Michael and Blake. This book is beautiful. It is brilliant. If you love YA, I would 100% recommend you delve into this. I pulled an all-nighter reading this book, and I have not done that in a hot minute. So here we are. This is a very heavy pile, and this is all of my favorites for 2023 and 2024. So my camera just died, and my brother is also on his way home from work. So I am going to wrap up this video here. I know I said that I had my 2025 favorites to talk through as well, but I think I'm gonna leave them for another video. I might do a bit of a mid-year wrap up, or just wait until the end of the year and do a full 2025 favorites video. Let me know which one you would prefer to see. So far, I have 9 favorites on my 2025 list. I feel like this makes me look really short. Love that. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed my 2023 and 2024 favorites. Let me know if you have read any of them down in the comments below, or if any of them are going to be added to your TBR. I would love to know. One more time for the road. Here are all the favorites. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time in another video. Bye guys.